Okay, hi 5W and welcome to the first of our flipped classroom videos. As you all probably remember, our flipped classroom means that we're going to do the stuff that I would usually introduce in class. We're going to introduce it on a video and let you watch it at home, so you can try and watch it over and over again so you can understand it. So when we get to class, we don't have to do as much talking and we can get right into doing some good quality work. Now, a few things before we start. Make sure you feel free to pause the video at any time if you need to stop. You can watch the video as many times as you want if you don't understand something, or if you need to just remind yourself of how something was. And the third thing is to write down any questions or comments you have about the video and bring them into class. You know what I'm like. I always love it if you come in and tell me that things are good. If things aren't good, I still would like to know about them. Make sure you phrase it in a nice way, because I don't really want you to come in and tell me that you didn't like it. But if you have any questions or any comments about I went too quickly or that I didn't explain stuff properly, that's the sort of stuff I'd really like to know. So hope you enjoy it. Okay guys, so this week we're going to do a writing focus, and we're going to talk about how we can show characters' emotions and personalities within a narrative. So far we've been doing quite a bit of work about setting the scene and making sure we add metaphors and other things like that to try to make a story more interesting. This week we're going to focus more about how we can portray a character's emotions through the text that's in it. Now, one of the things that I've written down for you today are to try to move away from telling the audience about a character's personality traits and try to move towards showing the audience about a character's personality through their actions and words. Now, at the moment, that probably doesn't, you probably can't tell the difference and you probably don't understand what I'm talking about. So that's what I'm going to explain today. Basically, what I mean by telling the audience about a character's personality is to tell them, if your character was upset, you would say Sam was upset by what Ben did to him. Whereas if we're going to move towards showing the characters the angry, we wouldn't actually say the words he's angry, we would show he's angry. So we would say that Sam threw the ball on the ground and walked away and strutted away angrily and we would explain those things through the actions rather than just saying Sam was angry. So I'm going to show you a few examples of how we can try to do this. Okay, so the first example I'm going to give you today is about a girl called Wendy who's going into her classroom. Now, Wendy's angry. We don't know what about, but what we're going to have a look at is how the two different examples show how they express to the audience that Wendy was angry. So the first one I'm going to give you is how we would say when they're telling the audience how she's feeling. So it says, Wendy was really angry when she came into the classroom this morning. I mean, she was really, really angry. Okay, so there's nothing grammatically wrong with this sentence. It makes sense. It shows how she was feeling. It's giving us a good explanation. It's still giving us her emotions. But what it's doing is it's already telling us how she's feeling. It doesn't give us, as the reader, an opportunity to make up our own mind about how she was feeling. It also doesn't show why she was angry. It just tells us that she was angry. We don't know what she was doing that made her angry, but we just know that she was angry. We don't know how we know that, but we just know it. So I want to show you another way, which is to show the audience that Wendy was angry. And this is a different way that you could write a sentence, and a way that probably gives you a better idea about what she was feeling, but doesn't tell us what she was feeling. Okay, so the second example says, Wendy flung open the door to the classroom, stomped to her desk in the back of the room, threw herself into her seat, and slammed her books to the floor. Now, not once does this say that she was angry, but we can definitely see through those adjectives and the verbs that we can definitely see that, the strong verbs that are used, that we can see that she's angry. They didn't have to tell us that she was angry, but we can see this. We can get an understanding, and we can get a better understanding of her as a character if we can see the sort of stuff that she was doing to make her angry. So it's just one small thing, the way you're changing it. Instead of probably treating the audience like they're not as clever, we're trying to treat them like they are clever, and we're not going to actually tell them that she was angry. We're just going to show them that she was angry. So they're the few of the things that we need to remember, that we don't always have to tell the audience how they're feeling. We can show that, and we can do that through the personality as well. We don't have to say that he was a very smart boy. We could just have him saying really, really clever things, and then we could have someone say that he's clever, rather than just us as the narrator say, Tom is 10, he is a very clever boy. So that's the first example that I'm going to give you. Okay, so the second example I'm going to give you is about a character's emotion. So we're going to have a character who's really impatient about something that's going on, and we're going to look at, once again, the two different ways that you could portray that character being impatient in the story. So this story is going to this excerpt from a story is going to be about a girl called Sarah who's really impatient about her class finishing in school. So this is one where this is the telling the audience one where they're going to tell us how she is feeling. Okay, so it says, Sarah was very impatient about maths class finishing. She couldn't wait to get out of there so she could find out the results of her mother's surgery that she had been worried about all day. She couldn't concentrate. She couldn't concentrate in class, and she was drifting off and just waiting for this class to be over. Okay, so we can see words like impatient and that she and all those sort of words where they're telling that she'd been worried all day, and where they're actually telling us how she's feeling. So we as the reader don't get a chance to make up our own mind again because they're telling us how we should feel. So as an author, as the writer, you're supposed to let them try to create their own story in their mind and not necessarily try to persuade them too much. That doesn't mean that you can't tell them these sort of things, and there's definitely nothing wrong with this writing piece. What I'm going to try and show you is also just to try to make your writing a little bit better. So once again, let me remind you that there's nothing wrong with this piece of writing. I'm just trying to get you to improve your writings in certain ways. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the other side, which is how to show the audience how a person's feeling. Okay, so this is the second example, and this is if you showed us how the character's feeling. Show us how they're feeling. Her maths class before recess seemed to last 1,000 years. She stared intently at the clock on the wall, wishing that somehow she could push the hands around the clock simply with her eyes. The seconds ticked by slowly, the second hand moving past the number 2, now the number 3, crawling towards the 4 and the 5. 10 minutes more and she would be free. She'd already planned out how she would get out to the payphone in the least amount of time, dial the number of the hospital, and at last find out the results of her mother's surgery. Now you can see there at no point did it say she was impatient and that she was worried, but you really get a better sense of the fact that she is impatient because you're going through that impatience with her. You can see how tiring and how boring this is for her, that she's just waiting and waiting because they're showing the monotony of just the numbers going past the number 2 and crawling. Those words like crawling there, that word there really is just showing the audience just how much she's just impatient and wants to get out of there. They're kind of dragging this out rather than going through and saying she was impatient. They're trying to drag out this part just to show you how impatient she was. So really I hope you could see the difference between these two and show us just by saying that she's worried and that she's impatient. And then this one where they're explaining to you how she's impatient and what she's going through, this one is a better one for us to read, and it does seem a lot better. Okay, so what do we have to do from here? Okay, so here are some points to remember about today's lesson. Firstly, when you're writing a story, try to show the character's personality or emotion through their actions rather than just telling us how they are feeling. This doesn't have to be every sentence, but however, you should try to include these features as often as you can throughout your story to help to try to make your story more enjoyable for the audience. And lastly, by telling the reader how they are feeling, you're giving the reader less of a chance of making up their own mind. If you're constantly telling them that this person's angry and now they're sad, or that they were impatient and not trying to explain it to them, then one, they don't get as much enjoyment, because part of the enjoyment you get out of reading a story is to see the actions of the character rather than just be told how the character is feeling. So hopefully this helps you in helping writing, and we're going to work on this in class during this week. Okay. Yeah, so as I said, this week in class we're going to write a short paragraph about a character and try to explain their personality and emotions through their actions. So I look forward to working with you all in this class, and I hope you've enjoyed this. And as I said, if you've got any comments or questions about this, come in and see me. And yeah, look forward to working on it in class. Thanks. Bye.